Now, with these videos I've been doing lately on YouTube, I've been taking planets and using nuance of the planet, one aspect of it, to talk about a topic. So instead of talking about every single thing Saturn and Venus can be, I'm trying to get us to, like, let's zoom in on something specific, okay? Virgo, right? But I want to say this about it. Saturn, before I go into detail, remember, Saturn can be about, when we're talking about respect and we're talking about longevity and we're talking about discipline, when I'm talking about Saturn as a sign of respect, it can be not just who you respect, that's what I'm going to talk about, but what you respect in yourself. And it reflects a lot about your own work ethic, what you view as valuable to what it means to be successful. So a lot of it's, you're either going to do two things. Your Saturn placement is going to be what you are. Yeah, I respect that because that's what I am. Or I respect that because that's not what I am yet. So I want us to look at it that way, okay? I do want to start with the houses of, like, the areas of life in which you will respect certain people. Saturn, we know, can deal with esteem, reputation, this idea of legacy, this idea of what we have done, the work that we have done. So depending on where your Saturn placement is, it's going to help you understand more. And sometimes it could also be areas where you need to develop a little bit more esteem. You need to develop a little bit more self-respect. So for example, if Saturn's in the first house, it can mean you respect people that have a strong sense of self, of identity, people who know exactly who they are, people who are known for who they are. So you might even have this idea of, like, yes, they're known for being this, they're known for, and not the 10th house. 10th house could be for what you did, right? First house can be you respect people a lot for being who they are, but also people that are very true in and true out with the way in which they approach their own self. They're disciplined. You might like people that are very disciplined in terms of, you know, what they represent. You might like people that show up. You might like people that have a good reputation, people who have a high esteem, have a status. Not the 10th house, but first house can be this. You respect people when you feel like they are authentic, they're true to it, they are what they are. There is not a lot of fluidity in what they show up as. And sometimes you can see Saturn placed, and especially Saturn in retrograde, you're trying to attain that. You're trying to get to that level. So for you, it's like you see people who take themselves seriously. They're goal oriented. That's who they are. That's their sense of self, first house. And you aspire to be that in some way. Saturn's second house, you respect people who make their own money. You might respect people who are successful financially. You respect people who are, you know, you might look at folks, you might look at whether it's your family members, influencers, people who are famous, whatever, but you respect people who are smart with their money. They don't go off and just buy the next thing that they see. You respect people that, and again, doesn't mean you're that, right? It can mean you like that. You aspire to be that. I don't say you respect people with money just because they have money. I feel like they respect people who have earned their money. You may not respect people that had easy money. They had an easy time. Someone just gave them money. They grew up into money. You respect people that earned their way. You respect people that you felt have had to work hard. And again, that can be really interesting, because if that's what you respect, you might not respect people who do it differently. There can be this idea of, like, your kids, maybe you have more money, you are good financially, but you want your kids to learn the value of hard work. That's a very Saturn in second house type of thing, right? No, to get what I have, you need to work just as hard. You need to have your own money. You need to have this, right? So there can be this kind of respect placed on people who are able to attain their own level, people who are able to sustain themselves, people who are more independent financially, or people who are very smart, cautious, who aren't risk takers, like people who are able to have staying power in terms of their financial status. Right? So that could be even family. It could be, you know, you look up to your brother because he's been so financially successful since he was younger, and like you aspire to that, or you want to be that, or you've benefited from that in some way. Saturn in third house, you respect people who know their stuff. You respect people who research. You respect people who know the facts. You don't respect people that make things up. You don't respect fallacies. You respect, even if you have Saturn Pisces in third house, there's some level there of respect for people who are grounded in knowing things well, being an expert in your area. Third house can deal with learning. We know that. So Saturn third house people, you respect people who have done the work mentally. Okay. Saturn the fourth house, you might have a certain level of respect for family members, people who raised you, your elders. Does not mean you agree with everything they've done, but there is, and you kind of may come into your own parenting if you decide to be a parent, having that same mindset, which is kind of very old school because, nowadays it's, obviously there's a different way in which people are raising their kids. It's not just respect any elder because it's more of this autonomy that we have seen in terms of like raising kids and helping kids understand that they don't have to do something just because an adult said it, which is what a lot of, older, like millennial Gen X was raised as. Like, you do it because I said it and that's it. Whereas now we have more of this different type of parenting. But in general, Saturn can definitely be about, you respect people who are also people that are reserved in their emotions, like people who don't let their emotions overtake them. And it can be, you respect that because that's what you saw growing up. And you're like, that's the way to be. Like, you can't allow every single thing to throw you off track. So Saturn does represent this kind of idea, like people that you feel like are willing to go through what they need to go through in order to come out on top. But with Saturn fourth house, it is this idea of preservation. People who don't let their feelings in situations kind of overtake them and throw them to, cause any type of emotional upheavals. Saturn fifth is interesting. I think they respect people who are talented. So you could see, it depends on the other placements of the chart, but it's like Saturn in the fifth house could be very interesting where, depending on what else is there, these could be people that are critics, or they speak about things a lot. They're in the public, like by critics, or like they are reviewing things, or they have to speak on other people's talents, or they respect people who are very talented. Fifth house, they respect people who are really good in their pursuits, people who build on people who work hard on the things that they're good at. There's a level of respect there. And again, that could be an area of concentration for yourself as well with Saturn in that fifth house. It's like this idea of being good, being really great at the thing that you're good, being really great at the thing that you are good at is something that a Saturn and fifth house person may respect. This idea and concept of joy, people that allow themselves to feel joy, people who work on their hobbies in a way to be successful at them. Okay. But that's why I said, like, it depends on the rest of the chart, but if the rest of the chart sets it up, so this is a person that works in public or media or in some way, shape or form, or even like as an agent or something like that, like you're able to capitalize off bringing up other people's talents, especially if you have any Leo maybe in the chart. Saturn in the sixth house, you respect people who are hard workers. You respect people who do what they say they're going to do. You respect people that are responsible. You respect people that you don't have to follow around to make sure that they did the work. You respect people that are very much dependable but reliable, and that it's like, I don't have to ask. It's already done. You may say, doesn't everybody? No, yeah, in a way, everybody likes when people do what they say they're going to do, but that doesn't mean everybody respects it. We're talking about this idea of respect. These are the people that you actually you hold in high esteem, high regard, okay? Saturn is seventh house. You respect people perhaps that are very much, they listen to the other perspective. They want to know the other perspective. People who fight hard for fairness. Saturn in the seventh house, Lord, I know somebody with this. And it's like, it's Libra energy. And it's very much like respect for people that are really fair and fight for fairness. Saturn seventh house, it's like people that take their relationships very seriously. Like, no. What Saturn views seventh house Saturn views relationships as a contract. Seventh house is a contract. But Saturn is like, this is a contract. So if you are signing up to be married to me, or you're my partner, or you're my business partner, or you're my friend, or you're my this, that is what it is. We don't veer off, especially if you don't have a lot of mutable energy in that chart and you have Saturn at seventh house. It can be very much grounded in this idea of like, you respect people who honor their relationships, who honor their commitments, who honor the contract, whether it is a physical contract or a verbal contract, or it's an unspoken contract, but you respect people that are loyal or people that are committed. You respect, you can lose a lot of respect from people, or you will lose a lot of respect for people when you feel like they are too finicky, fickle, they're not loyal, they don't honor the code of your relationship, of your friendship, of whatever it is that you're engaged in through this seventh house energy. Eighth house, Saturn and eighth house people, you respect people that have been through some tough stuff. You respect people that are gritty, like they get through the grind. You respect people that may have an underdog story. They had to go through so much to get to where they got to. You respect individuals, and maybe you've experienced that yourself. So in that sense, you respect what you see as something you either are or something that you want to be. Respect people who know how to gain resources from others. I respect people that know how to be successful and take. And I don't mean take in like a bad way. I respect people that know how to join up and get the things that they need in order to be successful, right? I respect people who are goal driven in a way, but they are also incredibly determined to get what it is that they want and that they need. And that is why I say sometimes your placements don't always, if you're underdeveloped in your chart for whatever reason, squares, aspects, it can be, you want to be that, right? You respect what you aren't yet. You respect what you aren't because you wish you could. So with that Saturn in 8th house, you're going to respect people who are intense, but serious about, and they go for what they want. And they go for what they want in a way that shows that they don't have a level of, the difference between the 8th and the 10th house, the 10th house does want esteem. The 10th house is open, it's public. That's why the MC is on the cusp of the 10th house when you use Placidus, okay? The 8th house is more personal pursuits, okay? If you think of it in a way, right? It's more I want, right? Mars or Pluto, I'm obtaining, I'm grasping, I'm gaining, I'm getting from this, right? So with Saturn in 8th house, you have to understand the difference between that and the 10th house. But that Saturn 8th house level of respect is that intensity, people who you find are, you don't like weak people. You respect people who go through the trenches and get things done. Saturn 9th, you might respect people who are adventurous, but also smart in terms of they have a lot of experience. You might not trust people until you see they actually know what they're talking about. You might be the person where it's like, no, you don't listen to just everybody. You don't just listen to anyone telling you something. Saturn can represent this, people that have expertise, people who have accomplishments, people who may even, 9th house, we're talking higher learning, people that maybe have degrees in a certain area, or there's some level of age, time that this person has devoted to what it is they do or what they speak on, where you respect people who are knowledgeable but also have the life experience to back it up. Okay, but you also may be a person that in time, that's what you come to be respected by as well. People respect you from that 9th house placement. And you might seek that. You want to be like, you might be a person where you're gaining a lot of experiences, but you know one day you're going to want to put that into something serious. Saturn can represent, like, I said a lot of times, that mentor energy. As someone that's a mentor, someone who has the life experience to back things up, can now be the mentor and the guide and the coach for someone. That is very Saturnian. It's not the person that's been doing it for 2 years. It's not the person that's the same age as you necessarily. It's somebody, and it could be someone the same age, but it's someone that has time in the game. All right, Saturn in 10th. I talked a little bit about that already, but like Saturn in 10th, you respect titles. You respect awards. It might not have mattered to you. And this might have happened early in life where you're like, you're the kid where, yeah, it matters to get that little attendance award. It matters to get that honor roll award. Because a lot of our placements start off really early and very minimal when we're younger, before they fully become what they're supposed to be. Because again, we're talking about 10th house of goals and ambition. At 6 years old, you don't have no goals and ambition. Maybe, not to eat your vegetables, right? Like, let's be honest here. But what I'm saying about the Saturn in 10th house is you respect people who have a name, a legacy. You respect the name of something. You might be a person where you're like, oh, that college is that such. It doesn't mean you're a superficial person, but it means that things that are of monumental accreditation, things that have a good name, things that have a good reputation, they matter to you. And so it's very important for you also to have a good reputation. It is important for you to understand how that might be a part of your journey, is working with that, learning to work with that, you might have this other energy in your chart and you're like, well, I don't know what to do because I just started at my job, or I want to be better than what I am, but I don't know what to do. It does start by the way in which you are spoken, the time you put in, the effort you put in, becoming an expert. Saturn is about becoming the expert. You have to be ingrained, but you got to do the work. And so even if you're not there yet with Saturn 10th, it can mean this is also what you wish you had. You wish people would respect you more for the things that you've achieved and the goals that you have worked on. But as I said before, having 10th house placements does not mean an easy ride to goals and ambition, which people assume a lot of times in astrology. It does mean it's a theme, but it can mean you're the Saturn 10th is you respect people who have a name attached, people who have a record of doing things. You respect people who have something that is, you respect people who, I would say experts. Yeah, people who are experts, people who have done the work. You respect people's legacy, you respect people's names. Not very superficial, like, oh, I have this influencer. It's no, you respect people that have like some level of, legitimacy in terms of what they did. You really respect legitimacy. Saturn in 11th house. You might respect people who have a dedication to a cause outside of themselves. You might respect people who have a long-standing relationship with certain communities. You may respect people who you feel are very dedicated, who are goal-driven in terms of what they choose to focus on. So again, we talk about the 11th house of network, of associations, friendships. It could be you respect people that have long-time friends, like people who are very loyal. You might respect people who have a certain level of influence. Saturn could be influence, but you may also respect people in your crew who have more life experience. The older person in your setting, in the wise one in your group. You like being the one who has done it, who's done the work, giving advice, being the person who people come to because you have the success and the status that they may want. You might enjoy that type of thing. I think you respect people who have a good reputation among their friends, people who have a good reputation among other groups. You do kind of look at like who's respected here. You like people that are respected in a group, not just tolerated, people who are actually respected in their circles. Saturn 12th, you might respect people who are able to define success for themselves because you're seeking it. You're seeking it, right? We talk about the 12th house a lot in the hidden, the unconscious, the energy that we don't always visibly see. But with Saturn and 12, traditionally Saturn is enjoying the 12th house. But for you, you may respect people that understand that success and ambition does not have to look like buying the house and getting this award and being seen in society as somebody who has it all together. But with 12th house, there's a more spiritual component to that. And there are goals and there is ways in which a person can be very experienced. A person can be rewarded for the work they put in. So with Saturn 12th house, you might respect people that you notice their ambitions and their goals are not connected to worldly possessions or things that are superficial or things that are manufactured. You respect people that have goals that are more spiritual or that are more divine in purpose. Like these people they figure out their own journey. They design their own journey. They design their own reality. So you can really respect people. You're like, wow, that person came from this to that. Wow, that person didn't even know anybody in the industry and they did this. Wow, this person trusted in themselves and their purpose and they trusted in, they manifested this. Like you might respect people that you've like manifested their life, their world, or people that you find are kind of controlling their destiny. You might respect people that you find are not just doing the status quo, but are defining their own journey, their own truth by allowing themselves to navigate in a way that is more aligned with their higher self. Okay. And again, that might be something you are embarking on or something that you wish for yourself.